Hello, my name is Dan Johnson, and welcome back to the Who podcast. This month, we're going to be talking about Big Finish and asking the question whether it is canon or not. And today, I'm going to be joined by someone that actually understands Big Finish and, yeah, in some respects, got me into it because for a while, I didn't have much of a collection, and my ability to kind of, or well, not my ability, but my brain was racked of which one to buy and which was like an important series to start because there's so much stuff out there. What do you pick? And I think this was maybe in May well, 2 years ago now.
2 years ago, I was
Yeah,
honored when you told me that it was that conversation which led you to start collecting Big Finish. Because I've
yeah.
I've since sort of known you. I've seen you like review Big Finish on
Hmm.
like your YouTube channel, but I never considered that it was all from that one conversation we had. I remember
Yeah,
that
I
conversation as
think I
well.
had maybe like it was very quickly after I met you. I got a feeling Yasmin was there, so maybe it wasn't May. But yeah, it was quite early on into the quiz. I think it might have been you, me, Blair, and I want to say George.
No, I think it was before that. It was one of the very first ones. I remember Lord Slar being there.
Yeah, it was a very long time ago now.
It would have been it would have been something like March, April
Yeah.
2020, I think.
Oh, bloody hell. Before Yasmin was even in the group. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. But at that time when we had that conversation, I think I had maybe like three box sets, something like that. I think I had the Legacy of Time, which was the first one I bought, and then maybe a few downloads. And then I kind of like, they did lockdown ones. I think I had a few of them. But I wanted to get into a proper series, and you recommended to me Ravenous, so I ended up buying Ravenous, and then I've got stranded, and then I got into Ninth Doctor Adventures, the Time War, which I haven't actually completed yet, Dalek Universe, which I think has been a huge standout for me, Unit, which is kind of like my chosen spin-off, if that makes sense. It's the spin-off I'm following from start to finish. Um, but yes, I've focused on them and even a few vinyl stuff as well. But Livy, you have a very like vast collection of stuff, I
I
do
do.
believe.
It's strange because I don't want to say I don't care about. I do care about Doctor Who. I haven't just paid much interest in it as of late. I have been listening. I had been listening to a lot of Big Finish audios
Hmm.
recently, a couple months ago. I was sort of marathoning the Eighth Doctor stuff, but I was sort of I would say taking a break. But I'm on the books now, and I'm just very slow at reading.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I wouldn't. I could not do one of those. Are they Virgin novels? Is that what they're called?
They're the EDAs, the Eighth Doctor books. I've only got four of
Right.
them, but I'm enjoying them, but I just don't have the patience to read them. Um, but yeah, no, I do have a Big Finish collection. I'm looking at it now. It's like two or three shelves.
What are some of your
Right.
highlights in that? Do you think?
I've completed the Eighth Doctor main range stuff. So
Oh
everything
right, okay,
from
yeah, bloody hell, that's quite a lot.
that was I've always loved the Eighth Doctor main range stuff, all the Charlie and Kara stuff from
Hmm.
the early 2000s. I've managed to get all of those on physical release, which was difficult.
That yeah, I mean, what? So you've got probably the most notorious episode I think was what Chimes of Midnight maybe. If you got that one, if you
I
on
managed to
CD.
get that. I managed to win that in a bid for £20, which was
Wow, I mean that thing
pretty
can
lucky,
go
I
for
say.
about what's that worth? Maybe I'm thinking about
Two
80.
200. Oh, I've seen it go for 80. I've seen it go for 200 as well.
Yeah,
Some
it's
super
it's up
people.
there.
I've got Storm Warning in its wrapping. I've got
Really cool.
Minuet Hell signed by Nicholas Courtney. I was very lucky that all the 50 to 100 audios, they were all still in stock when I bought them. When I became a
Ah,
fan
right,
in
yeah.
2017, I think.
They were gone by the time I was
Yeah, so I luckily I've
looking.
managed to get those all like brand new, and they were on sale as well. So I managed to get them relatively cheap.
Hmm.
Um, I've got bits of main range stuff like fifth, sixth, and seventh Doctor. Not as much, but they're sort of interesting to listen to. I've got bits of. It's mainly the Eighth Doctor Adventures is the stuff I collect as well. Like I've
Yeah.
got the first series of Lucy Miller. I've got bits from other seasons. but it's mainly as what I recommended to you, like we discussed, like Dark Eyes, Doom Coalition, Ravenous, Stranded, and a couple of other things like the War Doctor and the War Master and other bits like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I need to actually listen to some more of the early Eighth Doctor stuff. I've got Secrets of Mars. Is that what it's called? That doesn't seem right.
Secrets, treasures? No, what
It it's with
is it? Red?
Simon Pegg and Jessica Hines before she was Hines, and I think Mark
Oh,
Benton's
Invaders from Mars.
Invaders from Mars.
That's
Yes,
a
that's
very
right.
good one.
I
The
enjoyed
green
that one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that one, and that one's signed by Mark Benton.
Oh,
So
okay.
that one's quite a cool CD. But that's the only one that I have. I've got Silver Turk because I like the Simon.
Not
But in
actually
terms of,
heard that one.
I really liked that one.
I've got it, but
I
I've
love the
not got around to
gothic
it.
aesthetic to that one. So, but I'd like to listen to a bit more Lucy Miller because apparently she's really good, and I have not listened to anything that she's in. Um,
It's a
especially
good. I was going to say. I don't know why I recommended it to you. I mean, Ravenous probably wasn't a terrible idea to recommend
no,
you, but I'd say one of the most like accessible ranges of Big Finish is the Lucy Miller range.
yeah, and a lot of it's
Because
on
it's
Spotify. It's just oh,
yeah, even still, yeah, and it's very similar to New Who. It's like 45 minutes. Um, it's it was set in 2007 or whatnot.
yeah.
And it's just very like easygoing 45-minute stories. There's four series as well, so it's sort of like the RTD era, but in audio form, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how. What's the? I want to say Human Resources is the first one, but I think it's the finale of a like a
And that's the
series.
fun. It's Blood of the Daleks, which
But
is
is
the
that the
first,
one with Haley Atwell?
possibly.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. With like sort of, it looks like huge two, like or three huge Dalek sort of like figures. Is that on the cover of that
I think
one?
there's one big Dalek.
I
I
do.
don't remember.
Yeah,
I actually
but
got them on CD recently because they all went out of stock, and I saw they were like £2 each. So I was like, right, I'm just grabbing all of
really,
these. Yeah.
no, I didn't know that. No, I because that recently there's been something that I've been like, oh, it'd be cool to listen to them. But I tend to just pick up whatever I'm interested in finding out about and kind of filling in the gaps, I suppose. So I'm a big fan of spin-offs. I bought the Lone Centurion sets,
Okay.
which were they were light listening. But I did quite enjoy the first one. I haven't finished the second one. The Ninth Doctor, obviously, because that's a big thing for me, and Dalek Universe being one of the best things I've ever bought from Big Finish.
Well, yeah, I've heard good things about Dalek Universe. That was sort of one of the things I was thinking about because I've sort of gone back and forth between like criticizing Big Finish of today with their
Yeah,
like, you know, let's combine every Doctor with every companion and every villain. You know, River Song meets Missy and the monk or whatever.
yeah,
But I have heard some genuinely good things, like, and there definitely are fans for that sort of niche.
yeah. Sort of like it's almost like tie-ins galore, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
it's it's when I was listening to Unbound. I don't know if you've listened to that set, the new one.
No, I've heard a lot of good thing. Oh, is there a new one?
There's a one with the Sixth Doctor. It's called Genesis. Something like that.
Is that the one where he's no? Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to
So,
Google this.
so I'm trying to read it from the side. Uh, Doctor of War
Yes, he's the
Genesis.
War Doctor,
Yeah,
right?
it's the war. Yeah, it starts off as a very cool story, and then
Okay,
by the end of it, I just sat there and just went, "This doesn't feel different. Though. This feels like Doctor Who.
right.
It's different in terms of its structure and how it's like presented to us, sure, but the thing about What If, because it's kind of along those aspects, is that show took things to like a new level. It was like we fully explored our what if scenarios. This box set, I don't feel did that very well. I think that I don't know if it's really a spoiler because it's like clearly stated on the cover, but the whole thing starts off with the Fourth Doctor and that scene with the two wires, and
Yeah, yeah.
essentially he
Iconic.
completes it, and that causes um the events that lead to his regeneration into the War Doctor, now played by Colin Baker.
Okay.
And I thought this is cool. I like this first half, first episode. And the second episode, I thought, okay, I kind of get this. I kind of like it. I like the new Doctor, and I like a lot of elements from it. But I'm just feeling like it's too similar to what we've had before. I mean, they essentially wipe out the Daleks and then bring them back again in the next episode. And I'm sitting there like, okay, right. I just, you know, you could have done something really cool with that, but you chose not to
Big
because
Finish
Daleks
can
sell, I suppose.
Big Finish can tend to get messy. That's the one thing I've noticed with. I mean, you get it with New Who now. That's the thing I was thinking about. I was sort of reevaluating what I thought about the current Chris Chibnall run of Doctor Who, and as I was saying, it felt very fresh to begin with, but I do believe started to get a bit messy, and I mean that's the same with any sort of era with Moffat or whatnot.
Mm.
I think you can highlight that in the Eighth Doctor sets, for example, Doom Coalition 4, River Song, The Monk, the Sonomancer, all of this
Yeah.
stuff, and all the Weeping Angels, and then that I think that was sort of maybe the problem with Dark Eyes 4 is that it was the Master of the Daleks, the Sontarans, and it sort of all comes together, and just each finale just sort of feels very like techno babbly, I think is the word, just
Yeah.
very sort of nonsense,
Over clever for its own than it
overcrowded.
really needs to be. Yeah,
Yeah,
I felt that with a couple of episodes of Stranded. I think the
I haven't
fourth
actually
one on the
listened to.
third
I haven't
set
actually.
was that. Oh, hang
Okay,
on.
I haven't listened to Stranded yet. I've heard
Oh,
the
have you not? I
first.
thought you have.
No, I've been buying them, but I've just not got around to it yet. Again, I'll need
Ah,
to carry on with this Eighth Doctor,
okay.
but I've heard the first set and that's it. So
Okay, well, I do really enjoy Stranded, by the way. I think that Stranded
okay,
is a really well written series, but the fourth episode, I felt was quite weak in the third box set, just because of the way that it does something very similar. It tries to be clever. I just feel I'm sitting there just lost. It's you say you need to listen to it several times, but I'm just like, well, I don't want to listen to it several times because that's not what I need to do from stories. I feel like I should get some sort of gratification from it the first time and then be inspired to listen to it, not felt need to listen to it to get the story. Um, it makes sense once you've listened to it
that's one of the things
yourself. But
about
yeah,
Ravenous though is that it was quite overcrowded towards the end. Is it the episode Day of the Master? Is that what it's called? The big
yeah,
finale.
yeah,
I thought that was a little bit complicated, but I think overall, when you view it as the four box sets, Ravenous is like a really strong,
yeah.
like
My
big series.
my only criticism with all of Ravenous was probably that I always felt like the first and fourth episodes in each box, because I had to listen to them because I listened to them fairly quickly as like
Yeah.
one big series. As an
Oh
arc,
god.
it felt weird that each box set was its own, like, this episode is our, kind of the resolution, I suppose, to this, the carrying on from that. Then we'll pause, we'll do two episodes of something different.
Yeah,
And
it
then
does
we're
seem to be
going
like
to
that.
do like a big finale that won't be the finale, but will be a tease for the next box set. And I felt
Yeah.
that a lot with Ravenous 3 is that I really enjoyed the two episodes in the middle. The first one was fine. The fourth one I didn't like very much because it was always relying on having to wait for the next one, if that makes sense. Like, because they were
Gotcha.
all open to me, I sat there just going, actually, we didn't progress that much. We didn't do that much, but a lot of the hype came from not being able to get the answers just yet.
Yeah, I'm just having to Google parts that I sort of forgot.
I suppose you
I see
haven't
what you
quite
mean.
listened to less than you have, yeah.
I've heard I must have re-listened to Ravenous. There's a part you mentioned how they do like little stories in the middle.
Hmm.
I think Ravenous 2, the Christmas two-parter in the middle, is possibly one of the best Big Finish things
Oh
that there
yeah,
is to exist. I think it's really good. Like
it is very,
that
very good.
gets
Yeah.
so overlooked. I think it's like a really solid. I listened to that at Christmas. I think it's great.
I did too. I think that story is brilliant, and I think that I quite enjoy the Caldor episode, even though it's quite simple. The fourth box set, you say that the final episode is a bit overcrowded, but I think it was really good. I
I
enjoyed
remember
Jeffrey
there was a
Beavers as the master and stuff like that.
that was good. I've not really heard much. I listened to a Big Finish episode with him recently. It was called Mastermind, and it was a companion. Is it companion chronicle? Is that what they call it? And it had Yi Ji Cho and Daphne Ashbrook.
I
Not
didn't.
in.
Yeah, I was gonna say they don't have the right to that, do they?
No, they're not. So they're in character as other people. They play unit soldiers, and they're sort of they're interrogating the Jeffrey Beaver's master when he's trapped in a vault, and it's really, really good. You know those Big Finish stories that are like they're like an hour long, but there's like so much happens and there's such a journey from the start to finish.
Mm.
I recommend that one because I don't think it. I think it's quite cheap, and I really enjoyed listening to that one. To be fair,
Right, yeah. I can't say I'm big into the companion chronicle stuff.
me neither. Because they I mean they usually narrated stuff, but which I sort of struggle to. I don't like that as much, but some of them aren't, which was
Mm.
but this one wasn't.
Mm. No, I can't say. Well, I don't listen to as much narrated stuff, but I think that the stuff that I have listened to are always things that I'm into. Like,
Okay,
in the Masterful set, that I thought that sort of three-part thing that they did really encapsulated the 70s. And there's like a Robin Hood one that they did based off the TV show. And because I watched that as a kid, I wanted to relive a few episodes from that. So I ended up buying that.
okay.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
I was just going to mention. I forgot. There's like what's the episode called? Is it called Whisper?
Yeah, it's the first episode of series 4, Whisper.
That is so good. Uh,
Whisper is
I
quite good. Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't remember. I remember bits about it, but I just remember that being so good, and the characters were so like on point, and Liv was like really well done in that episode.
Yeah, the idea of it worked quite well for audio as well because you're
Just
sitting
very
there
atmospheric.
having to
Yeah,
whisper and yeah, that was an interesting element. So should we actually ask the question that this
getting
podcast has
married.
been about?
Oh, I see.
No, I wasn't going to propose. No.
Oh, not
Um,
again.
so not yet. So I was going to ask, with all the stuff that you've listened to, does it bother you if it's canon or not?
Um, no, that's the thing with me doing this. This is I can't remember when
Because
I
you
started
know quite
this.
a lot about this stuff, don't you?
I did a video about
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Ninth Doctor canon thing. I think it's. I mean, in the show, there's always stuff about alternate realities and timelines and stuff like Rise of the Cybermen and Inferno and all of that. So I just like to like I suppose headcanon because everyone can have their own sort of like
mm,
people can believe different things. I sort of like to like as I'm doing this marathon of like literally all of Doctor Who, there's bound to be. I mean, I've already like encountered so many different like master timelines within what happens after survival.
yeah.
Like
The
I've got
master is complicated.
yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of like even that Jeffrey Beaver's Big Finish thing I was listening to. I was like, oh, this is completely ruining what's about to happen in this book or this comic. Um, but I
Mm.
suppose it just comes down to alternate timelines because I'm gonna have to watch like Scream with the Shouker at some point, and I'll just like, oh, that's what happens to the Eighth Doctor after this or that. To be honest, I don't know because even like Big Finish probably contradicts itself a ton.
Yeah, I don't think that like, do you know, like the MCU have basically like a team of people that sit there and sort of work out the connections almost and
Oh
work
my
out.
god.
I think that people have pointed out things like in No Way Home, you can see a poster for Rogers the musical from Hawkeye, and they're kind of sitting there working out like the timeline of like like it's like a real world, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and I think that's really cool. I'm seeing Doctor Strange tomorrow, and I think that's really cool. But then at the same time, I'm sitting there just going, was it really necessary to do all that? Like with Doctor Who, the show's about time travel and it's about timelines and aliens. And at the end of the day, does it really matter if the Doctor that you're seeing is not chronologically in that slot, or the master that you're seeing is not chronologically fitting into this order? And even there's someone that like kind of likes that kind of stuff, is into the idea that there should be a timeline of the master from start to finish. And even with like Dewan and even with the show itself, the show does like ignores some of it. Like if you watch the Doctor Falls, the master dies there. The master is dead at that point. Missy does not rise from that unless all of a sudden, like the master and John Simm's master was completely wrong and said that, oh, I wouldn't bother regenerating, because your hearts are stopped because I've sonicked you. Um, with that, I think that I think that the canon of Doctor Who's so loose and so broken anyway there is no
It's
need.
canon, right?
There's no need to sit there and like, you know, pick feathers out of it of what should and shouldn't be real and what we class as true or not. I think that it just should all be true. Even I think even things that are made like by fans, I think should be not officially.
Yeah,
I'm not
no,
saying that like the BBC should come out and say that
yeah.
this fan series is true. But I think that you have to almost suspend a bit of disbelief to think that that is this is the Doctor so many times in the future. This is like an alternate Doctor. This is the Unbound Doctor. There's just lots of them, and with the Timeless Children, like, the only one of the only things that I like about that is that it opened up the idea that you could have many other Doctors before the first Doctor, and in between Doctors, and a whole kind of like adversary in terms of the division that can be explored.
I mean, is it fair to say that I don't really, I don't care? Like,
Yeah,
in the fact of like, I don't mind what people want to say. Again, like I said, it's sort of like subjective because everything, like everyone has their own. Someone might be particularly obsessed with like a comic or something, and a lot of people go, "Oh yeah, that's not canon.
yeah.
The master dies or whatever." But I just everyone can. Doctor Who fans can explain any bullshit away.
Yeah,
So like,
and it's easy to as well in some respects because I mean, if you look at like X-Men, right? I mean, look at their timeline. Look how like damaged that thing is. There was somebody pointed out that in the 90s, uh, Ian McKellen still looks like Michael Fassbender. So in what well, I think it's about 10 years, something like that, he becomes Ian McKellen. So he ages about 30 years in 10, if not more. My dog's having a good old bark at something, but it's
canon.
yeah, it's kind of like to get what we want or to get new stories, we have to kind of suspend it because otherwise you're so trapped by that linearity that you cannot do anything other than just collapse under the weight of law.
Yeah,
I suppose like you just sit there and it's like I can't do this because we've killed the Master, we've killed the Daleks, we've killed the Cybermen.
that's why you see people like arguing and getting like so up about it, just because maybe they just care a bit too much. Because you can never really have like a definitive answer with something so subjective and
Yeah, it is so up for debate all of the
yeah.
time that there's no way you can easily just say, yep, that's definitively correct. But I think surely it has to be. They've got the license, it's a licensed product. So why shouldn't it be? I can't believe that there are people that think that Big Finish isn't canon
I
or
mean,
it isn't.
there's no like huge run-ins,
Yeah,
and
there's
if
been
there
no
is, it's all like
connection.
unbound stuff.
Yeah,
It's like um
but it would be amazing. I always think in each sort of series and each showrunner that we get, it would be really cool if there's even like a small reference to it, a bit like like the Doctor when he said he mentions Liv and Helen, and I can't remember who else. Do you know when we did the quiz? Is when we did the quizzes, I got it then. I think who because he lists all of them, and I think you wrote the quiz
wait,
in which
who does?
Paul McGann when he's
Oh,
saying it,
I see
yeah,
what you mean. Yes, when
he's
that was nice when he mentioned all the Big Finish companions. I see what
yeah.
you mean. Yeah.
So I suppose that is our confirmation that it is canon because the Eighth Doctor. We know about the
Oh
Eighth
yeah,
Doctor. We know about that. So it is canon. It's just a
it was weird
case
up
of
until that point.
people don't believe it.
Nobody knew whether Big Finish was canon or not, and it was sort of people would sort of like it'd be sort of disconnected. But within those like 5 seconds, Stephen Moffat just went, "No, it all counts."
Yeah, I mean, the power that RTD now has, and the power of any writer really within who writes for Doctor Who, they could easily turn around and sort of like get rid of something, or like if they could overwrite stories because obviously, with things like Dalek, Robert Shearsmith, who wrote Dalek,
Him
Shearman, who's
yeah,
hell Shearsmith, Daniel? I think I've got confused with Reese Shearsmith.
yeah.
Um, very similar names by the look in my brain. Um, it's probably the spelling. Um, but with that, I think that he wrote Jubilee, which then was also Dalek, and they kind of nicked the same idea for it. So yeah, it's all
Oh,
very
Jubilee.
loose, and
Yeah.
it doesn't quite fit. But I think that you kind of have to suspend your disbelief slightly. But something that I'd like to end on, Livy,
Of
is
course.
the covers or the recent covers for the series.
Okay.
So what do you think of the whole water washing sort of paint apps they've been doing onto the
I,
um the covers recently? Because for me, I think that I love the individual covers. I understand why they haven't done them because the catalog
yeah,
was
that was a
growing.
shame when they stopped doing covers for like when Stranded was released, and it was
Mm,
like, oh, I mean, I like the way they're like little, just like single CDs now, but it's
yeah.
like or doubles, I guess. But
Yeah, they're much thinner, and I suppose by that respect,
yeah,
they're kind of slicker. But then at the same time, well, to be honest, I don't know what you do for the covers for Stranded because they'd have to be very similar. They'd have to be kind of formatted because the episodes don't have such a wide breadth as other series have done. Um, and it seems to be that only some sets are getting covers as well. And I understand, of course, why they've done it, but I just sit there and think I would love to see this episode as a cover. And then the covers that we do get for the exterior packaging of things, sometimes I'm not really a great fan of them.
it is.
Not as
Yeah,
audibly as other people have been, but still.
some people really don't like things, and I think it sometimes can be unfair because like they're working with the best they've got. I mean, personally, if you mentioned that those watercolor things, and like
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a huge fan of those. And there was those short trips that had sort of more recent ones. Is it short trips? I think it is. Yeah, I wasn't as big a fan of those covers. Um,
There was that second Doctor one that came out last week as well. It was the second Doctor, and they were like talking about how they've brought back all this stuff, like all these cool items. And then the front cover is just like the second Doctor's face with like a bit of like time vortex stuff next to him. And I saw some people complaining about that, but
right.
I think that you can't really live up to the hype of every cover, I suppose.
Some of them
It's
are really nice, and like I have to, I can't, I can't like I'm not going to call any of them out because
yeah,
I'm in a group chat with a lot of the people who do artwork for Big Finish, and
yeah. Well, so many of them are gorgeous, though, aren't they?
yeah, and so
It's
many of them
it,
are like involved with the fandom as well. Like it's
yeah,
nice that they're like fans of the show are now like providing trailers
yeah,
and
definitely.
covers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that the whole sort of watercolor idea works really well for like sort of maybe like Unbound or kind of like
Certain, I feel like
novelization adaptation stuff. Um, but I don't feel as passionately about it as some other people have done. I know that 40, which is like this Peter Davison set, when they I don't know if you bought the first one that was at the beginning of the year, but they've because it's the 40th anniversary of the Fifth Doctor, they've split it into two, like this arc over two box sets, so like 12 episodes, and like they've done a Cyberman episode, a Nice Warrior episode, and then the last box set was I'm
oh, that
going to say
looks cool.
recently, but recently the was sort of announced to be like an Auton story called the Auton Infinity, and it's like 6 parts long. And that when that cover comes out, I'm going to be very excited because if it's anything like the one that they did for set one, I think that would be really really cool. With Autons, and I think Autons are a villain that they don't really give a lot of time to in Big Finish. I don't believe they do.
There's a Lucy Miller. Actually, no, I won't say anything because it's a bit of a spoiler. But
Very well.
there is one of them that's quite good. But I see what you. Some Big Finish covers are lovely. And there's some very nice. I mean, they've definitely improved over time. Like if you look at some of the really early ones, obviously
Oh
there
yeah,
was
definitely.
they had,
Just
but
like the craftsmanship, even the stuff that the stuff you make, or have made in the past. Some of that is gorgeous. And when we've watched you make it, because you've seen there because we have sat there in Discords, and we've watched you make these things, and you've had your little live
And my
stream on.
screen, yeah.
Yeah, we've watched you put little hairs on things and stuff like that, and that's been that
Nowhere
was
near
very
as
cool to
talented
watch.
as the actual creator. Like some of the stuff they do, it's really fascinating to see because it's like so much Doctor Who artwork, and it's a shame with that we don't get the DVDs anymore with like Lee Bindings, like fantastic artwork.
Yeah, so
Because that was always nice when a new story would
he's
be
up there
released.
for me. Yeah, with one of the
Yeah.
best sort of visual artists that we've had for Doctor Who is Lee Binding.
The thing is with the DVDs is that it would be like a DVD release, but it would also mean new artwork. And if it was a slipcase, maybe two new bits of artwork. But that's the nice thing with Big Finish is that like even like including all the weird stuff that's in the stories that you have to visually realize on the cover is like a lot of fun. I had to like make this composite of Kerry's recently, which was just a nightmare to do, but it's like it was just a lot of it was just a lot of fun, like overall. It's just very nice to visually realize all of this stuff and
Yeah, it's
um
a good creative outlet. I think just being is Big Finish always to me feels like this amazing company to work for, that like almost like a dream factory where they're making that they're involving fandom like no other company that has ever done before.
yeah.
They quite literally hire fans, as you said, to make their artwork, and then they kind of see what fans want, and they give them what they want, and they're expanding their media, and they're constantly delivering us box set after box set with amazing stellar stories by excellent writers, and they're doing all of this with what essentially quite a small team. So
Yeah.
it's very impressive, and I think we should all sort of praise them for being here, especially when Doctor Who, because of COVID, because of what's happening at the minute, they're struggling to, I suppose, make full series at a time. This year we've only essentially got 3 episodes, and we have nothing now till October, and then possibly, even though we don't know, nothing till the following November. it
Yeah.
will be um it will be Big Finish that's picking up that mantle and carrying it into 2023. But Livy, thank you very much for coming on. I
Well,
hope you
thank you for
you
having me
had
on. I've had a lot of fun.
a
It's
good
been
time. I'm glad to have you on. My co-host Will has always been sort of against me talking about Big Finish because I tend to bring it up, and he's like, "But it's not the show, Daniel. We're not talking about the show. We're not talking about Big Finish. We're talking
proved
about
him
the
wrong
show."
today. Subjective will.
Yeah, yeah, that's what you say next time. I'm just sitting there like, Will, but this is cool to me.
Just
It's
show
gonna
him
be
the
done in Big
episode. Just show him
Finish.
this episode. Make him listen to it, and then come
Over and
back.
over. Every time he mentions it, we just bring him back here, and he has to play the entire thing again. But honest, thank you very much for coming on. It's been excellent to have you. Hopefully, you can come back again. I can give you a proper interview, I suppose.
Initiation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
proper.
that'd be
You've had
nice.
your initiation, proper interview into
Okay.
your
The Who podcast.
your psyche, I suppose. But maybe
So
psyche
thank
was
you
the
very
wrong
much
word.
for having me on. It's been fun, Daniel.
Brilliant. If you want to listen to other episodes of the Who podcast, you can check it out in the link tree below. We recently did one on the 14th Doctor. Next month, we're back with some other things. God knows what, but it's going to be good. And I've got a lot of exciting people that I'd like to talk to in the future. And I've asked for interviews, etc. from, but we'll see if any of them actually come into light. But until next time, thank you very much for listening. I shall see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.